Slayers and folks beyond, welcome. I am Spectral. This is far from the gameplay videos that I would post, but a wonderful lady that I know gave me the encouragement to do something like this. So here I am, to read the history of the Sentinels, Codex entries straight from Doom Eternal. But I'm going to do so ASMR style, in preparation for the Revelations DLC. Hugo Martin did mention Slayers Club Live as of last week, at the time of making this video, to go back to these Codex entries to prepare for what we are about to bear witness to. So I am excited. Now with that, rest your weary fists, my dear Slayers. Put your minds and your souls at ease, as I hope to bring you comfort and solace through these readings. Straight from the Book of Kings of the Sentinels lore, here it is, the history of the Sentinels. Do enjoy. In the days before man first spoke, an immense shard of rock and metal was cast into the world from the heavens. Thunder and cataclysm shook the land as the skies were torn asunder. The cosmic spear cleft a hole through our mortal lands, pole to pole, from the cold wastes of the umbral plains to the fetid swamps of Iron Fang. The womb of the world opened and the elemental wraiths, the firstborn, spilled forth. They took to the skies, fierce in their emancipation. In their exultation, they brought vitality to the land, and all that felt their breath were awakened from eternal slumber. Fierce beasts and an unforgiving biosphere rose in the passing of their shadow, as the wraith call echoed across Argent Tenor. First came the Ancestrals, feral creatures invigorated by the magic of the wraiths. They grew to enormous heights, mighty behemoths who waged war with each other for years untold. Their battles tore the land asunder and destroyed all creation caught in their wake. The wraith call continued to spread across the land, and soon the Argenta emerged from the steppes, our souls stirred into form by the power of their breath. The Titans towered over the wild-blooded tribes, but found them uncowed. The secret of the sword was discovered, and in the darkness of sweltering mountain forges, we beat steel until it was strong enough to pierce bone and sever flesh. Thus we came to be, born of rock and fire, lowly in birth, but risen by the strength of our will. By the blessedness of the first ones, we forged sword and shield, and took the hammer to the Ancestrals. We claimed dominion of creation by right of blood and magic, and the time of man came to be. With the ancestral beasts driven back to their bleak valleys, we rose. We tilled the fertile land, husbanded beasts of burden, and built towering cities. In the hallowed palace, on the obsidian throne, we crowned King Ormoro the Father, the first of the line that shall reign in perpetuity. We built the Cathedral of Reflection to worship the first ones, and formed the Order of the Diag, whose priests pay tribute to the wraiths and appease their tempestuous hunger. Our sons and daughters chose the path of the sword or the path of the alchemist, for each duty honors the gods. Though our ways were righteous, we were not without strife. Storms and great quakes cast our spires down. Barbaric tribes laid siege to our fields in search of the great gifts Mother Argenta had bestowed upon our world, and the song of the Wraith Call threatened to drive lesser men into madness. We were not lesser men. We defended that which the first ones gifted to us. We beat back the barbarian hordes and hardened our resolve. We rose above the fire, our bodies and souls tempered, and an unbreakable will was shaped in the forge of battle. What emerged was the heart of our legion, the Order of the Night Sentinels. In the time of grief, when King Edrix took the throne, a blessing came to the people of Argenta. White porcelain beings from a world above our own brought gifts to Denor. Observers to our great deeds, admirers of our convictions, they sought to make bonds with our swords and bring lasting order to our world. These were beings unlike any we had seen before. Sword and shield held no weight against them, for the ethereal flesh of these luminous beings seemed unbound by mortality. Able to move through time and space, they held sway over all dominions of the known and unknown dimensions. Through their ways we grew stronger, our society bolstered by their infinite wisdom and all-known power, assuring our people's safety for all time, in this world and the next. Where we sharpened the blade and mastered our magic, they bolstered the soul and spirit. Death would no longer be the end for our people. The ones we call the Makers, our new allies in this brutal world, have given us the security in death we fought so hard to achieve in life. We would find eternal peace, and our minds would rest easy with the knowledge that those we fought alongside in battle would join us in the lands beyond the mortal plane. The strength of our ways, the purity of our essence, would by Maker law grant us passage to the great city in the clouds. There, our women and children, warriors and kin alike, would welcome us. We adopted the holy doctrines of the Makers, gifted in exchange with the chance to earn eternal rest for our immortal souls in blessed Urdak. The covenant we held now under the embrace of our new gods fostered a peace we had never known, for they were unlike the first ones, whose presence offered no paradise from fear and the uncertainty of existence in a harsh and unforgiving world. The Maker's embrace was warm and guided us into an era of spiritual prosperity. With machine and enchantment of the Makers, the Argenta brought our newfound clarity to the disparate realms of the Empyrean Void. We took flight with the support of our gods, spreading the enlightened word of the Khan Maker. We discovered there was not one enemy, but many. Worlds and peoples unknown to the Argenta were unveiled, and we saw our own suffering reflected in their eyes. Our righteous army strode into battle under the banner of the Night Sentinels and fought for the freedom of all peoples from the grasp of those who would exploit and prey upon them. Though we battled on soil not our own, the blood we shed in foreign land safeguarded Argent du Nord, and the sons and daughters that defended it. Through the strange peoples we liberated, new alliances were formed, and our beliefs became their own. Our armies swelled. As the Argenta traversed the stars with gleaming war fleets, the Khan of the Makers approaching King Rowan on his throne. He sensed his god, restless by her disquiet manner. The king and Khan spoke, and the god revealed she had foreseen a schism in the blood of the Argenta. A test would be required to identify its host among us. She spoke of a holy rite to be performed on the strongest of our warriors. Only those that proved worthy would be tested, for the impurity could reside in only the most resilient of our legion. The Divinity Machine, a great tribute by Maker Scolaris, would help us to cleanse any impurities from our flock, ensuring our continued prosperity in this world and in the Maker realm that awaited in the afterlife. The malicious one, if not exhumed from our ranks, would jeopardize our safe passage to the heavenly realm of Urdak. The Dark One was not amongst them yet, nor would he be for many generations. Only the Mother God, through divination and Maker's sight, would determine what he stood before them. The Makers were truth, and only their unclouded eyes could find the one who was marked. The prophecy of the Unholy One was written, but through the ages the warning grew faint, until only the Khan Maker herself and the high priests of the Order Diak still whispered of he that would one day come to threaten their way of light. In the time of King Novik, as the Argenta secured peace and safety through dimensions across time and space, an outlander came to us. He was not of our world and spoke an ugly tongue. How he first took step upon our land was unknown. Sentinel scouts had found the outlander bloodied, clawed, and near death, bumbling of impending doom and the forces of darkness. The scent of blood followed him, and the gore that stained his armor seemed not entirely his own. By Argenta law, the stranger would be judged in the Colosseum, where he would be given the chance of all who strayed from the path to fight for his freedom. We knew not of this stranger. His mind seemed crippled with rage. He dressed in attire not suited for our lands, and carried munition of arcane origin. We watched as his will overcame his injuries, and in the blood arena, he proved his worth. The Outlander's technique was crude and brutal, but the determination in his charge echoed that of any true-born sentinel. His war cry echoed through the Colosseum, as did the sound of his fury, and the guards cheered his banner. Rip and tear. They shouted as the beasts pushed beyond mortal wounds and certain death. On the eve of the Black Star, Dark Ones came from a world beneath our own, not through ship nor ephemeral vessel, but through the fabric of dimensions. Out of swirling fiery gates came horned beasts from a timeless realm. First one, then many. Crashing waves of evil swelled from the obsidian forests of the Argentian overlands. The Alorum clans from the eastern mountains fell first to the black hordes of devils, and the city of Talorum slung under the weight of their charge. We Sentinels rose to meet the beasts with spear in hand, the might of the Holy Fleet striking back at the demons. But the dark gates, from where they came, gave birth still to even greater hordes. A line of blood was drawn with the fallen of both sides, and the unholy wars began as the time of darkness came upon us. Unlike enemies of the past, we could not contain the demons emergent from the dark realm. Their weaponry was not conjured from machine steel, but from the essence of their very being, a dark magic not known to us in our many conquests. Had we grown overconfident, our victories serving to dull our blade as we drank in the glory of our expanding empire? Lost, we knew not of how to prevail against this foe. The Maker Gods stood perplexed, and our engineers and priests scrambled to find the advantage in battle we so desperately needed. Unknown to the enemy, we were pushed to the brink of defeat, and our gods stood with us as we worked to find the answer. The Order of the Diag were the first to unlock the mystery of these foul creatures. The priests were able to capture several of the beasts and set about to identify the source of their power. It was then that the essence of the Dark Realm was discovered. Not wholly unlike our own, this power was the life essence that flowed through their twisted form and powered their attacks. It could be harnessed to power our own weapons, giving the Argenta the chance to combat the demons on even footing. The priests believed that with greater knowledge of the essence, we could discover its source and cut it off from the demons to strangle their armies from within, allowing us to regain the advantage we required for victory on the battlefield. The Khan Maker gave blessings to our Majesty and directed the priests to delve deeper into the mysteries of the Scarlet Elixir from the demonic realm, for she sought only to return balance to our universe. Proper assimilation was required, as hell stood beyond her influence. After the great effort, the priests discovered more than they had ever hoped for. They learned of the true nature of the demonic energy, and how it could strengthen those skilled enough to harness its power. The energy coursing through the malformed bodies of our relentless enemy could be used to end life or to enhance it. The power to heal, to mend, immortality, knowledge and enlightened faculties beyond our understanding. With the demon's life force in the skilled hands of the Sentinel priests and under the righteous gaze of the Khan Maker. Our people would not only rise to victory over the unholy horde that clawed at our walls, we would move to a higher plateau of existence, ushering in a new era of military science and industrial healing. No sentinel would grow sick. No maker would need to suffer the transfiguration that they so feared. All would be risen. None could ever oppose our peaceful ways and threaten our world again. True balance over hell and its legions, over space and time, in this world and all others. We would dictate the order. United with the Makers, we would find peace eternal. The Khan Maker demanded a tithe of the essence, and driven by her desire, the priests submitted themselves to her will. The Order of the Diag took counsel with the king, speaking only of the spoiled lands sure to be found through the cleft in creation, and the opportunity to purge the new invaders from Argent Denor. We took the war to their cursed land, pressing through the gates of wizardry. There was one among us who seemed to know the true nature of these foul demons. It was the Outlander, the stranger who had come to us from places unknown, he who had survived in the front lines far longer than any Sentinel-born prisoner had before. His passion for battle against the vile horde was evident, his lust for their destruction matching our own, though Argent Denor remained a foreign land to him. His fervor caught the attention of inquisitors of the Sentinel Guard, some whispering of a suspected allegiance he held in secret with the demons. Silencing the critics, King Novik deemed him worthy of selection. The signifiers brought a commission to our king, and it was decided that he be lifted from the common rabble. Though no arena-born prisoner had ever been granted the honor, the Night Sentinels broke tradition and deemed the Outlander worthy of training. A number of disciples grumbled and chafed at the barbarian present in their ranks. But in the war with the demons, all opportunities for even the slightest advantage were to be considered. And as they witnessed the stranger spar with their hallmasters, they found in him an undying, unrelenting compatriot. This man was an outsider, friend to none, and yet rose each time he was thrown to the dirt of the circle. Battered and bruised, his brow stained with blood, he rose with grim determination for the chance to face his enemies in armed combat once again. Time passed as the stranger was instructed in the codified matrices of their order, the ancient lessons of battle and brotherhood taught to all Sentinels. He could sense the opportunity before him. Soon, all of hell would feel his wrath once again. Satisfied that he would not be a detriment to their prowess, the Night Sentinels granted him his wish as they ventured through the hell gates with the stranger in tow. They knew no rest, fighting in the unnatural elements and training under the blood moon of night. The stranger suffered exhaustion, wounds, and sickness, but asked for no aid and was offered none. 3 times the night sentinels ventured into the gate and back, and upon every return, the stranger strode, more capable than before, his gait locked in step with the march of the sentinels, a disciplined and now controlled lust for demon blood ever present. The passing of years and innumerous battles with the devils indentured the stranger to Argenta's mightiest warriors, and no longer did they condescend to him as a new-blooded conscript, for to them he had become a brother in arms, forged in war, an ally, and a weapon. As we warred with the beasts, the Argenta society grew, under the watchful eye of the makers and through the endless power of the essence. While our generals were consumed with the unholy war, our culture was marked by the beautiful potion the enemy had provided us, the sweet elixir. It brought us immeasurable capacity and empowered us to reach farther into dimensions once thought to be beyond our grasp. Under the direction of our maker gods and the engineering of our high priests, our weapons blazed and our war machines stormed. The throngs of the populace drank deeply from the well of energy unveiled by the priests. But we of the Night Sentinels took no part in their abundance. Some among us whispered accusations and warnings against this manner of progress. But they were quelled, as it was not our role to dictate the future of our people, only to defend it. As the Black Star ascended to its zenith, King Novik sat restless on his throne as a howling darkness began to assemble just beyond the mountain rise to the east. The blight came upon us in droves, flooding forth from the Hellgate with merciless fury. They brought with them a monstrous titan, the Dreadnought, a beast to rival the stature and menace of even the mightiest ancestral. The grotesque giant laid waste to all before him, crushing all in his path. This was a total demonic assault, striking at the heart of Argentinor as never before. How was it that the behemoth could pass through the demonic gate without warning? We would never know, though the Night Sentinels believed treason was at play. Caught off guard, the Sentinels scrambled late in defiance of the Titan and his horde, and with his coming, the holy city of Taras-Nabad prepared for judgment. With the onslaught of the demons masked in the sprawling shadow of the abhorrent fiend, the city shook to its foundation. None were spared, save those that fled north. The vile swarm ransacked our temples and palaces, burning our towers and feasting on the souls of our clergy. Yet the Night Sentinels rallied and held fast against the demons, though they were pushed back and corralled at the blood arena. As the dark of night descended, their swords remained charge the enemy multitude with abandon. Amidst the unyielding ranks of the Sentinels, when all other apprentices had fallen in battle, stood the Outlander. "Rip and tear," he roared, ferocious in battle. The remaining conscripts of the arena stood in awe as they witnessed the beast who had once raged within their very selves, now armored alongside the shoulders of his sentinel brethren. He had risen where none other had before, a true-born sentinel fighter, the very best among them. But though the swarm fell before their assault, the Titan remained invincible, for none could tame the behemoth alone. In the hours before dawn, as the night sentinels weathered their relentless assault, the Outlander held his ground at the foot of the great wall in the northern bend of the castle. Seeing his unending vigor, Samur, Chancellor to the Mother God, hurried the Outlander away under veil of secrecy, and, for reasons unknown, submitted him to a rite untold. This was heresy, for Samur received no consent from the Khan Maker, nor did he receive her counsel. In the Chapel of Purity, the Outlander submitted himself to the divinity machine. There, Samur Maker, the Seraphim, known only to us as the aid to the Mother God, blessed the Outlander with fierce speed and power to match his will. It was the method by which this transfusion took place that was most uncertain to us, for we were of the knowledge that the Maker device bestowed onto the Argenta so many generations ago was to be used by the priests only to find the impurity among us. How could it be that the device that was meant to cull the sentinel breed of its contaminants could then be used to purify the Outlander's body and give rise to the one who would lead us into battle henceforth? What rose from the holy coffin on that fateful day was not the impure abomination the Covenant warned us of. The hero within would come to be known only as the Great Slayer, the Time Walker, the warrior Khan, whose fire sword would blaze forth a path for the just and cut through the demonic horde with a vengeance that only a God King could summon. He rose unbroken by the ritual, his eyes burning with Maker magic. He took the crucible in his hand, and wraith fire leapt forth from the blade, as only it will when held by a true Sentinel Warrior King. In our darkest hour, the Slayer had been chosen, defying tradition, our most sacred laws, and the will of the Great Khan herself. A stranger to our lands, had been blessed with celestial might. With the coming of the Slayer, the Night Sentinels took the campaign deeper into the heartland of the demons than ever before. Mighty Atlas were brought forth, tearing paths through the hordes of hell alongside the Slayer and his army. The high priests under the guidance of the Mother God, had found means to gain entry into the innermost regions of the demon world. And with the Diag's presence, new gates could be opened. Our war machines were unstoppable, wrought with maker technology, enhanced by the very essence our enemies hurled against us, as our armies drove deeper and deeper into the blood-drenched territory of the demons. Countless victories were assured with the power of the Slayer, for with the Alpha Interfector at the fore of our pack, we brought certain doom to our foes. And though our hearts were pure and our purpose righteous, unbeknownst to the fighters of Argenta, in our wake and under the veil of secrecy, the Mother God had set her priests to build vast factories upon the heathen's land, that she might gather the essence for further development. How this deception began, we would not know, for our focus remained on the hordes of the underworld. Why, then, would we stoop so low as to consider our Mother God of betraying our covenant? The Khan Maker did not seem at ease with the unforeseen rise of our Slayer, and the Seraphim who had birthed the Destroyer in secret soon vanished from Urdak, perhaps exiled for his heresy. Our legions rose unfettered under the unquenchable rage of the Doom Slayer, and his design led the Khan Maker to find profit in his endorsement. It soon became known that the Slayer was the Maker's God machine, a holy relic reborn, set to bring the Maker's word to the wicked and to smite those who would seek to harm all who followed the path to Urdak. With the Slayer unwittingly cleaving a path for her, the Mother God siphoned the essence, processing it beyond our knowledge into the fuel that would come to be known as Argent Energy. The Slayer cared not for polity. He took no interest in the workings of our people, but set his task only on his desire, the destruction of the demons and their world. He no longer spoke for reasons unknown, though it was understood that he still possessed the ability, offering only guttural hefts of anger as he inflicted pain upon his enemies. For years he marched with the Night Sentinels through the fires of the demon lands, and every return to our homeworld found much changed in Argent Dunur. Should any blame be apportioned to the Sentinels, it is this. In our fervor, we were negligent of our people, and did not see the rising tide of evil our crusade empowered. We knew only the enemy laid before us, and the wealth of Argenta at our backs, and did not pause to seek the cost and method of this progress. Yet, as the Slayer and Night Sentinels battled the demonic host, their failure to act outside the confines of their duty allowed the rancor of the essence to grip the Argenta. It was on a mission deep within the boiling seas of the Nether Realm, where the Order of the Six reside, that a company of Night Sentinels learned of the Con Maker's true dealings with the callous beasts. By Maker design, it was kept secret from the Sentinels and Argent people alike that the essence we had grown so reliant on during this war was comprised of the very spirit of our brothers and sisters who'd fallen to these vile creatures. The truth had been uncovered that all beings who found their end by the demonic horde would become a vassal of the hellscape. Their flesh, in time, twisted into the very demons we fight. Their souls extracted to create the essence that powers their world and ours. The victims were the enemy, and the enemy would become us. The soldiers stood in awe at the base of a factory dedicated to such action, a place where the bodies of the slain were sorted and processed, tortured for the mill to have their souls extracted through sinister magic. Enormous vats of pain and suffering, ethereal energy, the haunting sounds of lost souls, awash in an eternity of servitude, transformed into energy to power our struggle against the dark realm and its malice. But worse than the grim reality was the discovery of the machinery which was used to enact the vile process our fallen had become subjected to. For it was not by hoof and claw that this blasphemous technology had come to pass, but by the hand of the Argenta, guided by the Mother God's desires. We had fallen deep within the grasp of the enemy. What we had fought against would not reveal itself to be true, as without countenance we could hold no sway over the Argenta populace. Regardless, the honor of the Night Sentinels would have to hold up the verity of these claims, and the Mother God could be our divinity no more. In secret corridors and clandestine comforts, the Night Sentinels would find those amongst them who similarly distrusted the essence and had foretold the swelling corruption. Once the truth could be shared, the skeptics became members of the Sentinel insurrection, and the breach between holy and unholy Argenta began to grow. The truth could not be denied. The unholy spires raised in the barren lands functioned by blessing of Maker machinery. The Khan had betrayed Argent Denur and had made concert with the demons to harvest their essence, in return granting them access to all the worlds under her influence. A symbiotic relationship had formed, and darkness now had been balanced by a light. For where there was heaven, so there would be a hell. The followers would be granted passage to Urdak, and the sinners would fall into the fiery pits of the Dark Realm. this word would be spread from all cultures, in all worlds, and in all places. We were not without blame, for it was our people, the priests and the Sentinel engineers, who'd laid the work in place. Argenta's slaves had built the dark factories, and our own ancient wraith energy helped purify hell's elixir into the miracle fuel that now powers the Maker's world and our own. The Night Sentinels spoke of the evil brought by the essence, and carried their word to all who would listen. We had helped to create this new dichotomy, and so it must be for the Argenta to stop the spread of this pestilence, this new phase of existence, the dark and the light. If not for us, then for the innocent whose worlds have yet to fall under the spell of the Maker God and her unseen allies in the Hell dimension. Even when the Night Sentinels returned from the demonic realm with tales of slave factories that damned the souls of the innocent, the indoctrinated masses of Argent Denor took no quarrel with the Makers. They were indebted to the demon essence, the ministers deliberating but finding no basis for change. The messengers were cast down for daring to speak against those who had gifted us so much, our gods. The Makers, in their infinite wisdom, would see fit that the faithful continue life anew in Urdak. They feared the wrath of the Mother God. A lifetime of servitude would not be undone by this insurrection. This was simply another trial, a test of faith to identify those that were truly worthy to experience life eternal in Urdak. The Argenta would not waver in their resolve. The Night Sentinels prepared for war once again, though this battle meant drawing the blood of their own brothers. Our army had seen the work of the demons firsthand and knew its evil. They had returned to the way of the wraiths, and though their armament was diminished without the essence, it remained pure and righteous. A division amongst the Argenta had occurred, one side standing in opposition to the doctrine of the Makers, the other locked in belief. The Ascended Empire was comprised of the faithful and misled, wielding the desecrated energies of hell, the power of the Makers, and marauders who had sided with the Khan. The Night Sentinels were bolstered by the free people of Argenta, and the mightiest of all killers, the Slayer himself. Plans and tactics were drawn. The Sentinels would close the Argent energy factories in Necroval, that which fed the world of Urdak directly with its supply of fresh essence. They would stop the flow. The slumbering wraiths would wake up from their sleep and give Argent Denor courage. For years, the Civil War raged and took its toll on the soldiers as their armor lay stained with the blood of their brothers. Diag and the Night Sentinels. With the Slayer at the head of their army, they gathered to traverse through the gate and sunder Necroval, the city of the dead. The Order of the Diag, the high priests who had pledged their allegiance long ago to the Night Sentinels, worked in service of our mission. Those holy priests who had served the Argenta since time immemorial assured us that the way was clear. A plan was set to march into the accursed walls of Necroval and smite the factory, cutting off the flow of essence to Urdak and denying the Khan maker of her prize. Our forces took spear in hand and advanced. And it is there that the venom of treachery struck. Upon entry through the Hell portal, the Night Sentinels were scattered to the winds of unplanned chaos. Our warriors were separated, our ranks split as the gates twisted and hurled them across the unholy realm. Some of our warriors appeared near to the gate that they had walked before, but found that the vile priests had barred the way back. Then the trap was sprung, and each lone Argenta found himself set upon by bloodthirsty multitudes of demonic beasts. Let it be known that it was not the priests alone who failed the northern armies, but one of the Sentinels' own. Hell found his weakness and exploited it to the demise of Argent Dunor. If not for the betrayer's stroke of madness, the Wraith's power would still be our own, and the Sentinel flag would still rise above Argent Dunor to this day. Scattered in hell, abandoned by their clergy and reinforcements, the Sentinels proved their worth in what would be their final war with the forces of all evil. Unrelenting power in the face of certain death, the Sentinels crushed hundreds of demons and skewered titans. When their Atlands held no more fuel, the Sentinels took to the ground and fought the swarms on land. All of hell knew of the betrayal, for it was without question the makers and the priests who had sowed the seeds of deceit long before the brave warriors passed through the gate. What hell saw that day was the beating heart of the free people of Argent Dunor. They did not flinch in the face of their own certain death. They died as they lived, with sword and shield in hand. Urdak too low a price to house such giants. Theirs would be the fate of warrior gods, remembered for all time. Lord Sash, the stalwart banner sergeant, was found with his war standard pierced through the throat of a giant beast, his body surrounded by the corpses of enemies. Rowan the Mighty, the light faded from his eyes, had eviscerated such a multitude that their entrails clung to the black rocks like vines. Gore, relentless until the end, had broken his blade on the backs of his foes, and by the time he fell, he had slain another 2 score, with his hands alone. The priests believe the Sentinels all slain, but we are Argenta, born to overcome. Rumors, deemed heretical by the Order Diag, persist and claim that the Slayer himself still rages in the unholy realm. None who live can know, for the future of Argent-Dunor has been bent and twisted by the perverted vision of the Essence Drinkers. Never again will the light of the Wraiths illuminate our world. All is fallen. If the Slayer does live, let him carry our vengeance forward. If he persists, let him wreak violence on those who have wronged us. May the blood of his sword never dry. May his war never end until the guilty have been punished. And may this evil never again spread its shadow over another world. And that is the history of the Sentinels, as per the Codex entries of Doom Eternal. I do sincerely hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that this brought you some comfort, some peace, and some rest. Please let me know what you thought of my performance. I would very much appreciate it. But thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a blessed and a wonderful day. Rip and tear until it is done.